Okay, good evening. Welcome. Thank you for bearing the elements and coming in this cold weather. Tonight's Halacha share is entitled Magic Shows. It's quite a long sheet. If you're listening online, please email me at j.golker@gmail.com. I'll send you the handout. It's quite a long sheet, and I'll have to try and do it quickly because there's a whole parsha share to come. But let's see how we can do this. It is, of course, connected to this week's parsha because I don't want to call them magic tricks, but sticks turning into snakes and things like that do happen in this week's parsha. If you take a look at the first box, Vayover Moshe v'Aaron al Paroi, Vayashlech Aaron es Mateu lifnei Paroi, v'lifnei Avodov v'Yila Sanin. All of a sudden, this stick turns into a snake. Aaron is showing Paro that he has, he means business. And then the next pasuk, interestingly, Vayikra gam Paro lechachomim v'lemachashvim, he brings his magicians. Vayasu gam him chartumim mitzrayim lebelateim kain, and they do the same thing. Now, just agav, there is an unbelievable malbim on this pasuk. The malbim is troubled by the malbim is apart from being the malbim, is a grammarian and he's a biblical Hebrew expert, and therefore he is troubled by the construction of the pasuk, because the pasuk says Vayasu gam him chartumim mitzrayim lebelateim kain. Vayasu gam hem kain. You should just say they also did this. Why this change of lashon? Why this is sort of a clumsy construction, as it were? Vayikra gam paro lechachamim. Vayasu gam hem chaturei mitzrayim belateim kain. What's shut? It's a very strange expression. Says the Malbim, Bier hahevdel ben Maisa Aaron and Maseim. This is demonstrating the difference between what Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron did and the Egyptian magicians. Shehem lo asu taninim bepoel, because they didn't actually create snakes. Rak asu belateim. They just did with their necromancy, with their sort of charms. Rotzaloima betachbulas achizas einayim. Says the Malbim, you know what it was? This is just illusion. This is just sleight of hand. She'oisib b'mehirus, they do it quickly. Ad shemiso'eh es ayin haroya, until it sort of confuses the observer. Rotzolema, listen to this. Sheheviu oires shel taninim mesim. He brought skins of dead taninim, snakes, think crocodiles, like that. V'achartumim hoyu tachas or hataninim, and the Egyptian magicians were underneath the snake skins or the crocodile skins. V'hisna'anu tachtehem, and they started moving around underneath. Ad shenidmeshu tanin chai misnanea. They pretended to be these big snakes. V'doileg mimakon and makon, they were jumping from this place to that place. Umirov hamehirus, and through sort of speed, v'achizas einayim, and closing of the eyes, literally, or just a holding of your eyes, illusion, sleight of hand. Nidme laharoim shemin hamatzin nishavel tanin. It looked as if the stick turned into a snake, but actually it was pre-prepared. So you know the old Purim costume of of a tiger or a lion or something like that. That's what's going on in this week's parsha according to the Malbim. Amazing. Anyway, so it's a good connection to talk about magic in Halacha. There's a lot to say, but just to keep it very short, we'll do sort of a quick overview. The two important background sources are Gemara's in Sanhedrin. The first is a Gemara in Sanhedrin, Samachem base. The Brisa says, Ton Rabbanon, Ma'oinein. There is a law in the Torah called Lo Sa'oinenu, Ma'oinein. What exactly is that? Rabbi Shimon Omer Zehamar, it's taking some sort of liquid al ha'ayin and putting it over the person's eye. It's actually illusion, which we'll come to in a second. What exactly does that mean? And Rabbi Akiva says, you sort of calculate auspicious times. Today is a good day to go out, tomorrow is a good day to buy, to sell, whatever it may be. So three opinions what ma'oinin is, either taking some sort of liquid and putting it over your eyes, or, according to Rabbi Akiva, machashev itzim v'sha'os, calculating auspicious times, and the chachomim say achizas einayim. Now what is that? Says Rashi, oiches es einayim, oiches v'soiger eine habris. You open and close people's eyes, omare lohem, and you show ki'ilu oised dvarim shapela, as if you're doing wondrous things, v'hu eino oised klum, you're not doing anything, i.e. trickery, sleight of hand, illusion. So that's source number one. Source number two, the Gemara in Sanhedrin Samach Zayin Amdalev, it's a Mishnah. We're not talking about Lo Sa'oinenu, we're talking about Kishuf, Hamachashev. Hamachashev, i.e. Ha'oisem Maisa, you do an act, says the Mishnah there, Chayiv. v'loy ha'oiches esenayim, and not mere, trickery, illusions. Rabbi Akiva Omer, and the Gemara explains that this is Rabbi Akiva explaining the Mishnah, the Tanakama. Shnayim loiktin kishuin. For example, you can have two people sort of harvesting cucumbers. Echad loiket opota, echad loiket chayiv. One could be gathering them in and he is exempt, he hasn't done anything wrong. The other is gathering them in and he's chayiv. How so? If he doesn't act, he's chayiv. If he merely does achizas einayim, it's potter. Fine. So those are the two sources, leisa einanu and kishuf. Now, the trouble is, and this is where lots of literature on this topic is spent, and that is a stira, seemingly a contradiction in the Rambam. Because the Rambam, when he codifies these Gemaras we just mentioned, he says the following. This is in Hilchos Avodah Zarah, Perek Yud Aleph, Halacha Tes. Asa la'oinein, it is asa, it's prohibited to be involved in oinein, necromancy, let's call it. Afal pi shelei asa maisa, even if you didn't do anything. You're pretending something is actually true when it's not. And it's a clever, wise thing to do. And anybody who's engaged in this, he is chayav malchus. How so? Our pasuk. And so too, someone who does tricks, illusions, he's sort of pretending he's doing this wondrous thing. That's considered oinein, and therefore you get malchus. So according to the Rambam, a person does a trick, a rabbit out of the hat when it's just nothing. Says the Rambam, there's a chiyuv malchus, there's a chiyuv min Torah, and you've been over lois oinenu. Next Rambam, in Halacha Tesvav, it's 6 halachas later. Mechashef, someone who does magic, chayev skila. He's chayev skila, one of the four, with the most serious of the four mitzvahs based in. For who she'asa ma'asav kshofim. That's when he actually does an act of magic. But if he merely does some sort of illusion, for who she'yireh shenaseh, that he pretends to do something, v'loy also leike makas mardus. He is only over malchus midrabanon. So the steer in the Rambam is, in the first halacha, he says there's a chiyuv deraisa, you get malchus mideraisa, and yet in the next halacha, he talks about a chiyuv derabanan. So what is it? So there are lots of resolutions to this problem. The Bach, I'm not going to have time to go through it all, but the Bach, in short, says there's two issues over here. One issue is loisa einanu, and one is kishuf, two separate things. And therefore, what comes out is that if there's no kishuf involved, there's no magic involved, and it's mere illusion, achizas einayim, there is still an issa of loisa einanu, and your person will be chayav makas, which is a deraisa for that. However, once you use kishuf, then it depends if there's a maisa or not. If there is a maisa, then a person will be chayav misa. But if there's no maisa, then there's makas rabbanon for the kishuf. But loisa einanu there always still would be. So it turns out that according to the Rambam, pulling a rabbit out of a hat or any similar trick, even though you're not involving any magic and it's all sleight of hand, that is an issa deraisa. Now we have a guest at our table who eats with us pretty regularly, who does lots of magic and all these tricks. That's part of his parnasa. And sometimes he does tricks at the table, and I see him often on my right, so I can see exactly what he's up to. So one of his party tricks is he takes one of our glasses, drinking glass, and he puts it under the table. He shows everyone. He puts it under the tablecloth. He makes a bit of a show of the whole thing, and he puts it under the tablecloth, and then he sort of he's getting ready to sort of smash it. And I can see with his left hand and with sleight of hand, whilst he's sort of grabbing their attention and diverting them, he has removed the glass. He has just put a finger or something up there to give the appearance that there's something, the glass is still there, but it's of course not. And then he sort of slams down, everyone ready, everyone's counting, can you see, fists is clenched and their eyes are away from the glass. And then he goes, bang, and everyone, oh my gosh, he's broken the glass, and nothing's there, of course, and he brings out the glass, and it's all... Now, there's no kishuf there. That is called achizas einayim. Achizas einayim is mere illusion. It's nothing more than that. And therefore, that's pshat in the Rambam. So when the Rambam says that there's no kishuf, there's still an issa deraisa of loisa einanu. So there's still a chiyuv min haTorah of malchus. Masha'enkin, if there was kishuf, then it depends. If there was real kishuf, if there was no kishuf, if there's kishuf, there's a maisa, then there's chiv misa. But if there's no maisa, then there'd only be a chiv midrabanan. But according to the Rambam, therefore, doing these sort of acts seemingly is an issa deraisa. So, how do people do that? How do we deal with this? The Shulchan Aruch paskins like this Rambam. The Shulchan Aruch says Oichez Esoinaim is also, and the Shach says Ayin Bach Shekosa B'Shem Rambam. This is on the next page, paragraph 5. Tegam Achizas Einaim She'ein Al Kishuv. Even Achizas Einaim, which does not involve real magic, Rak Al Mar V'Tachmuras Al Kalas Hatnus Biyad is also. So it seems that the Shach and the Shulchan Aruch paskin like this Rambam that we've got a problem. Now, the Pischei Tshuva, to make matters worse, brings the Chochmas Odom, and he says, Shehisraim al habat cholim. He sort of shouts against bat cholim. Nowadays we go to a chasna, and if there's a batchen or something, normally he's telling verse and song and telling about the family and the chasna and the kala and whatever it may be. But it's not really doing magic tricks. Maybe at the Sheva Brachos you'll see that, but not at the actual chasna. But he complains against the batchonim she'osim achizas einayim ala chasnas she'im ovrim belav deraisa v'hamitzava la'asoisom over b'lifnei iver. What's more, the guy who hired them, you call up the local batchen who does these magic tricks. The person who hires them is over the lav of b'lifnei iver. You've caused another person to do an issa. If it's a asa distakel, and what's more, the audience who are watching shouldn't be watching. If the batchen, the guy performing, is not Jewish, then it's okay to watch. These are the issues. So it all seems quite strict. So what happens? What do we do? The saving grace is there are some more lenient opinions. Number one, the Radvaz argues with the Rambam. And he says that it's only a problem when you actually use Kercha Kishuf, proper magic. Now, like I said, the guy at my table is not using proper magic. That's number one. Number two, the Tiferes Yisrael says that sleight of hand without Kercha Kishuf, again, is okay. So the Tiferes Yisrael as well. And then there is a famous tshuva of Rav Moshe Feinstein. And this is a fascinating tshuva. We'll go through it quickly. Look what he says. V'zehu vada. This is towards the bottom of the second page in Sinyor Deh Chelik Dalet Siman Yud Gimel. V'zehu vada dovar tumua. It seems very strange, says Rav Moshe. His perspective is fascinating. Sheyiyeh shaykh issa. It seems strange to me, says Rav Moshe, that there could be a prohibition min Torah lemisha tivoi bekalos hatnua b'yoseh, for someone using his natural dexterous talent. He's using his God-given natural talent to do something, and you're telling me this is also strange. I'll give you examples of what I mean, says Rav Moshe. A few Sedras ago, they sent the Achim, remember on the day of Yaakov Avinu's funeral, when he's being buried in Maras Machpelah, Esav comes along, protests. He says, listen, there was Avram and Sarah buried there, Yitzchak and Rivka, 2 more slots available. One is for you, Yaakov, one is for me, Esav. You've taken your one for Leah, the other one goes to me. And they said, no, but you sold it, and the Shvatim are arguing backwards and forwards, and eventually they say, well, prove to me that you sold it, that I sold it to you. We've got the shtar. Where's the shtar? Back in Mitzrayim. They send Naphtali to run back. Says Rav Moshe, for ha'achim sholchu Naphtali Mitzrayim lahavi shtar mechira mi'esav li'Yaakov ha'chelka b'moras ha'machpelah. They dispatched Naphtali to run back to Mitzrayim to get the shtar mechira, the sale contract that Esav sold it to Yaakov. This is Gemara in Sotah Yud Gimel. Hari d'hoya muta. He's using his natural talents. He's running super fast. For gam Shimshon hoya muta lishtamish b'gvros ha'mashuna. Shimshon HaGibar was able to use his remarkable powers, his strength. It's sort of superhuman. When he did all his remarkable strongman feats, it must have looked like some sort of magic, and yet no one complains about that. And there's no shaila even of maras ayin or anything like that. And certainly no isa mamish. So it seems strange that the person just is very dexterous, it can involve sleight of hand, that this should be osa. But someone So therefore, it would seem, says Rav Moshe, that it should be okay for a batchen to use sleight of hand in these sort of situations. It would only be a problem if the Badcholim, the magicians, the entertainers, are intimating that they're using some sort of koach kishuf. They're using famous statements. The phrase abracadabra. Yeah, where does it come from? Abracadabra. So I knew this, and I just Googled it just to see if I was going mad or if I just made this up. But it's here was a few suggestions. The number one suggestion is it comes from the Aramaic. Avra kadabra. Avra, I will create. Kadabra, as I'm speaking. Through my words, I'm creating something. Ebore kadabra, avra kadabra, right? So that's where it comes from. So if the person is intimating that he has magic powers, it's through some sort of potions or whatever, then, aval, and this is the bold sentence in the second paragraph of Ramosha, but if he says that I'm doing this through natural means, no animal or child was hurt in the production of this magic trick, and this is all natural. It's quite well known. Says Ramosha, I don't see a particular problem. Okay, now it kills the show. Because if the guy stands up beforehand and say there's no real magic involved, this is just sleight of hand, then now whether you can do it afterwards or not, it seems like you do it at the beginning, and therefore. And Ramosha carries on and says, "I'll call upon him. No one actually asked me this question specifically, and therefore I'm not going to actually say it's okay. But to say it's also, he says you can't really say that. And at the end of the day, if someone stands up and says that this is actually not real magic, this is only what. So when I gave this shir in school once, and when you give it to a big class of boys, there's always going to be one or two magicians in there. So one of them, Taka, is, and he said to me he was aware of this Ramosha, and what he does is, at the beginning of the show, he shows them one trick, how he does it. So they all know that there's no magic involved. It's just through sleight of hand or, psychological diversion or whatever you want to call it. But then, the rest of the tricks, they know it's the same concept, but they're trying to guess how he does it. But they know there's no magic involved. Okay, maybe he should actually add and say, this is Ramosha, and they should add that, and this is why it's okay. Maybe. One final word, and that is the last paragraph of Rambam. We started with the Rambam, we'll end with the Rambam. Just bear in mind, all of this magic stuff, it's all nonsense. It's not appropriate for a noble Jewish person to be involved in this crazy stuff. And don't think that there's anything productive in this. Anyone who really thinks this is true, but just the Torah says you can't do it, he's lacking knowledge, he's not sensible. Just be straight, just be perfect and faithful in your avodas Hashem, and therefore don't get involved in too much in all of this. So just to summarize, what have we seen? The connection to the parasha is Aaron HaKohen is changing sticks into snakes. The Egyptians tried to do the same. According to the Malbim, it's the good old sort of crocodile outfit. That was how this worked. Two important sources in the Gemara and Sanhedrin. One is Lo Sa'inanu and one is Kishuf. They're steering in the Rambam. The resolution of the Rambam, according to the Bach, is that one is referring to Lo Sa'inanu, which always applies, and Kishuf, it depends. If there is Kishuf, then it depends if there's a Meister or not. If there's a Meister, there's a Chiv Misa, and if there's no Meister, then it's Makas Midrabanan. But Lo Sa'inanu and Issa Deraisa, and for Makas Deraisa for that, there still will be. That's how the Shulchan Aruch, the Shach, and the Chochmas Adam Paskan. However, there are more lenient views, the Radvaz, Teres Yisrael, and the famous Tshuva of Ramosha, who is Matir, so long as people understand that this is natural, there's no real magic going on over here. Okay.